Well, good evening to you. Great thanks for joining us. This is Sunday Express. Now, Sunday is quite a busy political day. We'll be telling you about Raila's visit to Mount Kenya region, Ruto's visit to Nakuru, as well as Mudavadi's visit to Kiambu County in Mount Kenya region. And it appears like the scramble for the Mount Kenya vote is up. I'm riding solo tonight. Serfine Achieng will be coming up later with an interview on mental health, and we'll be speaking to the President's advisor, President Uhuru Kenyatta's advisor on mental health, and that is Dr. Frank Jenga. Do not miss that conversation. But as we kick off Sunday Express, here are the highlights.
You can do it. But this means that we first as a people must be united. That's why we are talking about unity as the foundation of growth and development. And that is how the handshake becomes relevant.
ODM leader Raila Odinga terms critics of his handshake with President Uhuru Kenyatta as hypocrites, says no development can be realized without unity.
Itakuwa ni usaliti mkubwa kwa wale watu waliamka mapema wakaenda wakanipigia kura pamoja na rais kama nitatoroka ati kwa sababu kuna changamoto ama kuna shida ya kisiasa.
Deputy President William Ruto scoffs at calls for his resignation, saying it would betray those who voted for him and the president.
Ni hatuwezi kuendelea na maisha yetu ya baadaye ikiwa tutakiuka kanuni hizi na wingu la COVID litusombe sote.
And Kilifi County government grapples with surging COVID-19 infections as the disease takes toll on residents. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Lensa Odingo. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Welcome to Sunday Express. ODM leader Raila Odinga has taken issue with the critics of his political truce with President Uhuru Kenyatta, dubbed the handshake, accusing them of being hypocritical. Speaking in Murang'a County, Raila said that the country must be united. Even a meaningful development has to be achieved. He said that Kenyans must work together to realize their dream of a better country.
ODM leader Raila Odinga was in Murang'a County, where he joined congregants at the Bible Fellowship Church in Kangare Township of Kigumo constituency. Raila preached the gospel of unity, maintaining that it was the only way to ensure the country achieves its development goal.
You can do it. But this means that we first as a people must be united. That's why we are talking about unity as the foundation of growth and development. And that is how the handshake becomes relevant.
Raila took a swipe at the critics of the handshake between himself and President Uhuru Kenyatta, accusing them of being hypocritical.
Sasa wewe mmekuwa pamoja na mmezaa mtoto, wewe ni mama, unatoroka unasema hii mtoto si yako. Jamaa anasema yeye hiyo si mtoto yake. Anapinga huyo mtoto. Anasema sasa yeye anataka awe bibi mwingine, azae naye watoto wengine. Je, hiyo ni unafiki? Kama hiyo si unafiki, mimi sijui unafiki ni kitu gani.
Sentiments echoed by a section of his allies who accompanied him for the Murang'a visit, maintaining that the promises of the Building Bridges initiative must not be missed.
Mimi kama chairman ya BBI tulisimamishwa na kotini, lakini kuna fundamental issues ambaye BBI ilikuwa ina address katika nchi yetu, ambaye sio ya mzaha na sio ya kuchukulia hivi hivi. And I want to put questions to the people who are opposed to the BBI. What is their position on 1 shilling, 1 vote, 1 man? What is their position on representation? And what is their position on peace and unity? Wakijibu hizo maswali matatu nitaridhika.
When we talk of 1 shilling, 1 vote, 1 man, it was in the BBI. When we talk of saving the constituencies, na hapa Murang'a kuko na Kagema na kuko na Mathioya ambazo zitaenda unless we do something, it was in the BBI. When you talk of sharing of resources and the equality and the national unity and peace, it was in the BBI. Meaning, if you are not on that side of history, you are on the wrong side of history.
Unajua ile tofauti kidogo tuliokuwa nayo sasa, Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta aliposhikana mkono na baba, sisi tunajua kwamba nchi yetu itakuwa mzuri. Msitishwe.
His tour coming at a time the former Prime Minister is crafting his 2022 political strategy, with the leaders calling on the residents of the Mount Kenya region to support him.
In the meantime, Raila's arch-rival, the Deputy President, William Ruto, has dismissed calls for him to resign from government, saying doing so would be a betrayal of the people who voted for the Uhuruto ticket. Ruto says he will not yield to any kind of pressure to quit, but will instead continue seeking solutions for the problems that rock the Jubilee administration. Reeling from incidents that have largely been seen as embarrassing, including his aborted tour to Uganda and the latest withdrawal of the elite GSU officers from his residence, the Deputy President is putting on a brave face despite pressure mounting for him to quit. The calls for Ruto to call it quits coming from his boss, President Uhuru Kenyatta, and ODM leader Raila Odinga.
That you would actually, step aside and allow those who want to move on, and then take your agenda to the people, which is what happens in any normal, democracy, because you can't have your cake and eat it.
Ruto, who was speaking in Nakuru, however, has told of those who have called for his resignation, saying doing so would be a betrayal to those who elected him jointly with President Uhuru Kenyatta.
Itakuwa ni usaliti mkubwa kwa wale watu waliamka mapema wakaenda wakanipigia kura pamoja na rais, kama nitatoroka ati kwa sababu kuna changamoto ama kuna shida ya kisiasa.
Ruto says the frustrations being meted against him, including the withdrawal of a GSU squad, are meant to edge him out of government, but he will not yield.
Na hata ikipatikana kazi ya AP, ikitokea kazi ingine ambayo imetokea ya muhimu kwa Wakenya wengine ambao wako na matatizo, wanaweza hata kulete G4S, wanaweza kunisaidia hapo nyumbani. There is no problem.
Tutawaombea na tuwasamehe. That is the kind of Deputy President tuko naye. Despite kufanyio hayo, kama ingekuwa ni mimi na Kebani, sasa tungekuwa tushafanya mafujo.
Ile Mungu amekuwekea, hakuna mtu anaweza badilisha.
Despite the amount of criticism that has greeted his bottom-up economic model, Ruto says it is the only path to the empowerment of the rural economy and urban poor.
Na wauliza wote ambao wako na sera ya kuuza, wakuje kiwanja ni wazi. Soko ni wazi, wewe kuja sema yako, mwingine aseme yake. Hawa wananchi ni werevu sana, wataweza kuchagua sera gani inawapeleka mbele.
And while the One Kenya Alliance is yet to pick a candidate to face the Deputy President in next year's polls, political pundits opine that the defunct National Super Alliance, NASA, must regroup so as to stand a chance in next year's polls.
If Raila Odinga is not with them, his ambitions are doomed. If they are not with Raila Odinga, their ambitions are doomed.
And still in politics, One Kenya Alliance principals Kalonzo Musyoka and Musalia Mudavadi have separately called on Kenyans to support leaders whose agenda is to unite the people. ANC leader Musalia Mudavadi attended a church service at AIPCK in Githunguri, Kiambu County, while Wiper's Kalonzo Musyoka was at Redeemed Gospel Church in Embakasi, Nairobi, where they both dismissed Deputy President William Ruto's candidature, as Kevin Washira now reports.
Amani National Congress party leader Musalia Mudavadi attended a church service at African Independent Pentecostal Church in Githunguri, Kiambu County. Mudavadi called on the Mount Kenya electorate to support his presidential bid, saying his core agenda is the resuscitation of the economy.
The government must work with you and for you. We cannot have a government that is competing with its citizens. Mimi mkinipatia nafasi, hakuna mtu yeyote ambaye atakuwa na wasiwasi kwamba anaishi wapi, anafanya biashara wapi. Tunataka Wakenya wawe huru kukaa pahali popote katika taifa letu bila uoga na bila kutishwa.
I will feel very sad nikiamka katika ile serikali ambao itakuja na nikuta Musalia Mudavadi hayuko. So wewe jaribu, Mungu anaweza kusaidia.
Mudavadi says he will introduce good agricultural practices and boost entrepreneurial activities in Mount Kenya region. His counterpart in One Kenya Alliance, Kalonzo Musyoka, was in Redeemed Gospel Church in Embakasi South, where he called on Kenyans to support One Kenya Alliance as it seeks to unite the nation.
Ndio mimi nikaamua na wenzangu tuseme kwamba nchi moja, watu moja. One nation, one people. Ambayo haitakuwa na Mkikuyu na Mjaluo na Mkamba na Moluya. One nation, one people, and one nation under God.
Na pia tumeona njusi wamekuwa Mombasa wakiungana pamoja na Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta na Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga. Hao ndio wale viongozi tunataka. Hatutaki viongozi solo. Wewe uko peke yako, unaelekesha Kenya wapi?
Tunaomba ule mmoja ashajitenga, sio? Hao wengine wote ambao tuko nyuma ya rais wetu Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, tuje sote tuungane.
The Wiper Party leader also dismissed Deputy President William Ruto's fears of security following the change of security details at the Deputy President's official residence.
So mimi sioni hofu yoyote. One time siku hiyo ya kukula kiapo askari walikuwa wote withdrawn. Na bado niko hai. Karibuni sana Kenya. Mtazoea tu.
Kevin Washira for Sunday Express.
Of course, belt up next year, things will hit a fever pitch. Away from politics now, and the current wave of the coronavirus pandemic is taking a toll on Kilifi County, which ranks the 5th highest in COVID-related mortality rates. For the last 3 years, over 100 people have died in Kilifi, as the county government grapples with ways of curbing these surging infections, among them the closure of open-air informal markets. Our reporter Janae Karisa dissects the dire situation.
A cloud of despair hangs over the coastal county of Kilifi as the COVID-19 infections increase and the number of funerals rise by the day. Although Kilifi registered its first case of coronavirus on the 26th of March 2020, the over 100 deaths over the past 3 months are far too many. According to the Ministry of Health, Kilifi's COVID positivity rate has stagnated between 12 and 18%, ranking the 5th highest county in COVID-related mortality rates. The Amason Kingi-led administration admits that ignorance, particularly amongst the elderly, contributes significantly to the exponential COVID curve.
Hatuwezi kuendelea na maisha yetu ya baadaye ikiwa tutakiuka kanuni hizi na wingu la COVID litusombe sote.
Informal air markets have been termed as the second leading mode of transmission. The county has already suspended operations at the open air market for 30 days. On each day of the week along the busy Kilifi-Malindi highway, an open air market takes place.
Jumatatu huwa tuko Tezo, Tuesday tuko Vipingo, Wednesday tuko Takaungu, Thursday tuko Kasava, leo Friday tuko hapa na kesho tunatarajia tuwe Mkoroshoni.
During the weekdays, small open-air markets such as the Mtondia market can host about 30 traders at a go. However, as the weekend approaches, the traders have to multiply to meet the demands of their customers, thus the likelihood of the spread of the deadly coronavirus. For 6 years, 35-year-old Stephen Ndeto has relied on the shoe vending business to fend for his close-knit family of 4. He doesn't believe that the market could be a point of transmission, but instead blames it on visiting tourists.
Wakati wamepatana na wengine wakazi wengine na maybe waanze kutembea huko mashinani, hizo vitu vinaleta. Kwa hivyo hata hii soko kwa watu wengi, hiyo si mambo ya corona.
For just a fee of 20 shillings a day, 32-year-old Evelyn Ombasa treks scheduled markets weekly to get a day's catch. A month's bill earns the single mother of 2 a profit of 7,000 shillings. The market's closure could cripple her 4 years' hustle.
Hapa ndio tegemeo la. Labda hata kama uko na mzee hapa ndio uko naye hapa. Mkifungiwa nyoto utafanyaje?
On Friday, after the directive was issued, we made our way to the Mkoroshoni informal market. It is here that we meet up with Beatrice Kabao, who had just stocked up in readiness for the market day. The 4 coming weekends will mean no hefty rips, as is the norm.
Kuangalia fees ni kubwa, sasa ndio naanza kazi, nataka kuendelea. Uone vile watoto watakavyolipia hiyo nini fees ya shule, alafu ndio kazi hizo zimekatizwa. Sisi tutafanya nini sasa?
On a normal Saturday, this place is packed to capacity, with traders hustling clients to get a day's catch. However, for the next 30 days, this place will remain deserted until the county can regulate its prevalence rate. Upon the lapse of 30 days directive, Kilifi County CSA for Health Charles Karisa says there is need to revise the guidelines in accordance with the health protocols.
This sensitization is not to really bring people to know about COVID, but it's just to emphasize and also using the statistics to drive the message home, put enforcement measures that will help us also transform the attitude.
A change for the better could be the answer the county is looking for in the face of affected livelihoods. Juni Karisa Mbele from Kilifi County.
Quite a sad story there by Janae Karisa, but of course Kenyans are what would call strong people, and of course we shall see a renaissance and we shall come back from the ruins. Let's keep hope alive. In a related story, Kenya has recorded 363 new COVID-19 cases out of a sample size of 4,594 screened in the last 24 hours. The new figures represent a 7.9% positivity rate. Total confirmed positive cases now stand at 234,952, and cumulative tests conducted so far are slightly over 2.3 million. According to the latest data released by the Ministry of Health, 16 deaths have been recorded after conducting facility audits on diverse dates in August 2021. This now pushes the cumulative fatalities in the country to 4,710. So far, over 2.7 million vaccines have been administered across the country. Of this, first doses are 1.9 million, or second doses are 802,511. And that story will take us to a very fast break. But of course, I understand there are people stuck along the Nakuru-Nairobi highway for the last 1 hour and a half. And we probably hope that you can actually get help and, get to your homes safely. Hold on. We're taking a breather. We're coming back. And of course, when we come back, remember Serfine Achieng also has an interview with Dr. Frank Jenga, who is President Uhuru Kenyatta's advisor on issues of mental health. This is a conversation you don't want to miss.
Nikikwambia hauna tena kuongea, nimesema mimi natukana. Maya baba kwa nakujali tena sana.
Kazi zimepungua, so I'll have lots of time with you.
Kazi zimepungua ama kids ama cha kukusumbua.
Babe, please.
Unaniongea vibaya, lakini ukiniona mikono ya kuteleza vitu vishikike.
I cannot even break that. Mimi hata sijui kuli ni gani wala sijui mama ni nani.
Sasa mwenzako ngekutuma, angalau pata mtu kuongea naye.
Kwa kuwa umeambiwa uko ndani sina mtu wa kuzungumza naye.
Nani?
Ushauri keti na utaka sasa ni kuhusu kazi zangu, kampuni yangu. Basi.
Bonfeye, you have finally shown up.
Tell me, what is your demand?
It's simple.
Jingwu, get His Majesty out of here now. Hurry.
Majesty. Timur. Don't!
Mother! Mother!
Welcome back. You're watching Sunday Express, and for the purposes of our conversation tonight, you can talk to us on Twitter at KBC Channel 1, at Kioria, at Serfine_Achieng, on Facebook at KBC Channel 1 News, and we'll be happy to sample your feedback at the tail end of this broadcast. Over 50 households at the Osiri Matanda gold mines in Migori County have been forced to relocate after their houses were destroyed by earth tremors this morning. The makeshift shelters, which are mainly used by artisan gold miners, crumbled following what residents termed as underground movement, which left visible gaping cracks in the region, as Beatrice Getonyang-Etich now reports.
Here say they were alerted by what they thought was an earthquake and scampered for safety, only to return and find their houses swallowed by the ground.
Pia hatujui humu ndani chochote ambacho kimetokea kwa sababu sisi tuko nje, lakini ni mstari wa shimo ambao watu wanatumia kupata mali yao ama mahitaji yao ya kila siku. Sasa kila ambacho kimetendeka huko chini enyewe ndio sisi hatujui. Sasa nawahimiza sana sana vijana, wakati ambapo tunaingia huko chini tuhakikishe kwamba angalau tumejisajili mahali. Kuna mahali tumeacha majina yetu ambapo tukio kama hili likitokea tunaweza tambulika kwa haraka.
Some, oblivious to the dangers that they were exposing themselves to, opted to refill the deep cracks with soil to save their houses. Moses Owigo, who is among the affected, said he felt some underground movement but thought it was the normal mining activities taking place. Minutes later, he saw part of his house sinking.
Tunahitaji watu wa Red Cross angalau mahali ambapo tunafanyia kazi kama hii. Tunahitaji wale ambao wanafanya huduma ya dharura tukio kama hili likitendeka. Tusingoje sana kama wale ambao si wananchi wa Kenya. Huenda tukio kama hili kimetendeka kuanzia saa 3 mpaka wakati kama huu. Wale wa huduma wa kwanza tujawahi ona, hata kuna mtu anashughulika.
Owigo said he has lost goods worth 1.3 million shillings. Osiri Matanda gold miners chairperson Kefas Ojuka said they are currently staring at a disaster in waiting and urged those in affected regions to consider moving to safer grounds.
As a leadership, we advise our people to vacate the place because we are not sure how long this is going to happen. But kulingana na hiyo kidogo machache tumefanya upelelezi na tukajua hiyo panda wengine iko safe.
Ojuka said it's the first time they have experienced such an incident, adding that they will take the necessary safety precautions to save lives.
Wenye wamekuwa affected ni karibu, they are about between 20 to 25 households wamepoteza mali.
Matanda informal settlement has a population of close to 20,000 people, majority of whom do underground mining. The miners are now appealing to the National Environmental Management Authority, NEMA, to assess the place and advise on the next course of action, given that it's the breadbasket of the region.
And now Miss Sharon Obara is the new Miss World Kenya 2021. The excited finalist says the journey to the crown hasn't been an easy one, but she's grateful for the chance to represent Kenya on the global stage. Speaking during the event, Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs Cabinet Secretary Joe Musheru assured the pageant of the government support, saying the latest or the talent and beauty the country has to offer deserves all the support it can get.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
Beauty and vibrance characterized the evening at the Trademark Hotel as the 16 Miss World Kenya 2021 finalists graced the stage for one last show in a bid to get the much desired crown. The models will then proceed to showcase their different individual talents to an excited gathering of government officials and beauty pageant lovers present. Soon after, guests were treated to different categories in the pageant, including a dance segment, cultural wear, and the evening gown category.
But still, baby, don't die young. Colossal, we come these renegades in the rain.
The different categories of clothing will then end up paving way for the moment of truth.
But the judges are reminding me it is Sharon Obara.
Congratulations, and we have a new Miss World Kenya 2021.
The newly crowned Miss World Kenya 2021, Miss Sharon Obara, filled with emotions, finally took her seat and crown from her predecessor, Wavinya Maria. Sharon says with the win and the new mantle, she hopes to bring to light awareness on mental health issues.
Because the pandemic has taken a toll on a lot of people, especially mentally. So we are championing for inclusivity and ways in which we can help each other to make ourselves better and tomorrow even better.
These efforts are set to receive a shot in the arm thanks to CS Joe Musheru assuring the pageant of the government support.
We will step up and we will come and we will support you. I will talk with the Ministry of Culture as well. We will sit and we will come and support you. And what I have seen here today is going to demonstrate even to the rest of the world that Kenya has a lot of beauty. And with the beauty that we have to harness that, and we have to make sure that that is what we're going to use as we move forward.
The winner, who was contesting for the second time this year, finished with a word of encouragement for those seeking to join beauty pageants in the future.
Don't let the external pressures box you down. It's all about what's in the mind.
She will be representing Kenya in Puerto Rico in December at the global competition. Yusufar reporting for Sunday Express.
And in our counties, residents of Metamisie in Mwingi North, Kitui County are calling on the government to provide long-term solutions to drought in the area. The locals say relief aid is not enough, and so there is need to ensure the area is equipped with regular water supply.
Prolonged drought in Metamisi area of Mwingi North constituency has left many people here with nothing to eat, with some forced to trek for several kilometers in search of water. The situation forcing a local NGO to offer food donations to the most vulnerable in Mwingi North.
So my NGO is here, family, to intervene and help this community. One, to get food, as well as giving every child we have managed to recruit in our NGO a gold.
Meanwhile, residents of Mathagesi village in Fafi constituency will now have a permanent water source after the government, through the Kenya Development Response to Displacement Impacts Project in Garissa, completed drilling a borehole in the area. According to Water Resources Authority's Garissa coordinator Abdi Umar, the borehole can produce 30,000 litres of water per hour that will sufficiently serve all residents and their livestock.
It's in a severe drought now, and I hope this is going to alleviate. the scarcity of water in this constituency. We have drilled so far 9 boreholes. This being the last borehole. The others are already in use.
Elsewhere, parents in Busia have been urged to be proactive and create ample time to connect with their children and help them nurture their talents.
The parents will say that is waste of time. The children are supposed to go to class, they're supposed to read. They want their children to be doctors, teachers. When you hear a child singing, they imagine this is just waste of time. I urge parents of Busia to stop this mentality that talent is a waste of time, talent is misbehaving, talent is for crooks. No. Let us nurture the talent in children.
Education stakeholders say parents should take advantage of the half-term break and understand the needs and challenges of their school-going children. Finally, residents of Moya Town have decried discrimination in corporate social responsibility activities from the Kenol Mara Superhighway construction. They claim communities in Machakos, Muranga, Kirinyaga and Nyeri counties residing along the highway have benefited from construction of markets, schools, border sheds and health facilities.
Kuna plan hapa ya makutano pande ya Kirinyaga. Hao tayari wako na sheds ya kina mama wa soko, wako na shed ya bodaboda, wako na center itajengwa fish market na wako na ring road.
For Sunday Express, I'm Serfine Robbie.
Quiero amarte de una forma diferente. De otro modo.
You told Celia that you would take care of that when she was about to leave them here. Right here. Here. Here.
It's because I don't feel right, Nora. I don't feel fine. I'm so sad. I'm so scared for Max's future, for mine, for my babies.
I guess. It seems like they're all after the same thing, but I really feel that they have very different reasons.
We're siblings. You're my sister.
My brother? You're my brother?
Vamos, recobremos los momentos. Quiero amarte de una forma diferente. De otro modo, nunca igual al de otra gente.
Time for us now to do sports. And Nancy Chelangat Koech qualified for the finals of the women's 1500 meters T11 after finishing 4th in her qualifying round of the race at the ongoing Paralympic Games in Tokyo, Japan. Our reporter Elena Shiveka brings us up to date with the latest from the 16th edition of the Games that end on the 5th of September.
Kenya will be represented by Rio Paralympic 1500 meter T11 silver medalist Nancy Kiplagat Koech, who this morning qualified for tomorrow's final in the race despite finishing 4th in her heat. Nancy clocked 4 minutes 51.68 seconds in a heat that produced the fastest times, won by South African Kotse Luzan, who was timed at 4 minutes 49.24 seconds. Nancy and his guide runner, who is apparently his elder brother, Geoffrey Kiplagat, affirmed that their target was to qualify for tomorrow's final.
Nilianza vizuri, nikamaliza 800 vizuri, nikaenda ya 3, nikasikia chote imekuwa mingi sana, karibu kunitupa, lakini naomba Mungu amenisaidia, nimekuja na 451 na nimeingia final.
Tunaongea lugha ya mama ya nyumbani, so nilikuwa naambia yeye avumilie angalau tufuzu tuende final.
Another Kenyan athlete in the race, Mary Waithera Njoroge, failed to make the final even though she finished 3rd in the first heat, which was very slow. Waithera had very high hopes of making it to the final, but in vain.
Because qualification, we got the first two across the line. Then the two fastest. So unaona siku make first two across the line.
Immediately after the final of the women's 1500 meter T11 at 9:38 a.m., the men's 1500 meter T11 heats will follow at 9:48 a.m. Kenya's flag bearers will include Wilson B in the first heat and Eric Kiptoo-Sang in the second heat. Meanwhile, Pararoa Asia Mohammed wound up her participation in this year's Paralympic Games, finishing 6th in the classification event that took place this morning at the Sea Forest Waterway course. Reporting for KBC Sports from Tokyo, Japan, I am Elina Shiveka.
Elina Shiveka from Tokyo, Japan. Tyler Okari and Griffin Ligari starred as the Kenya Morans shut down Mali 72-66 in their final group match to proceed in this, to the second round at the FIBA Afrobasket in Kigali today. Ligare, who had been used sparingly in the first two matches, exploded for 7 or 12 points, while Okari contributed a double-double with 16 points and 11 rebounds. Heading into the last match of a group phase, Morans, who had lost to Ivory Coast and former champions Nigeria in their first two matches of the group, needed a win to remain in the tournament, and they delivered in style, beating the West Africans. Coach Liz Meles' charges will now take on either Uganda or South Sudan in the second round. And Machakos Golf Club's Stephen Okundi was crowned the 12th winner of the ongoing 2021 NCBA Golf Series after he topped the leader board of his home club's leg of the series. Okundi, a handicapped 28 golfer, carded an impressive round of 46 points to claim the top spot, 2 points ahead of the nearest challenger, handicapped 21 Josephat Mboya, who carded 44 points to claim the men's winner spot. Mboya's efforts were enough to keep veteran golfer General Musomba at handicap 15 at bay and in the runner-up spot in the category with 41 points. In the ladies category, handicap 35, Rehema Okal was also crowned winner after she carded a round of 40 points, 9 ahead of handicap 17, Jennifer Mangu, who took the runner-up spot with 31 points. The Machakos Golf Club event was the 13th on the 2021 NCBA Golf Series calendar and took place on the back of a successful 2-day junior golf tournament earlier in the week. The series now moves to the Scenic Par 72 Limuru Country Club for the 14th event on the calendar. And Vihiga Queens began their Sekafa Women's Champions League qualifiers on a losing note after suffering a 2-4 defeat at the hands of Ethiopia CBE in a Group B match played at Nyayo National Stadium. Maureen Achieng's double wasn't enough for Vihiga as CBE capitalized on defensive lapses to punish the Kenyan outfit. CBE scored their goals through Medina Basa, who grabbed a hat-trick, while Loza Junior scored a goal to hand their side the crucial win. In another Group B match match played earlier, EL joint Stars of South Sudan beat Zanzibar's New Generation 2-1. The semi-finals of the 8-team tournament are scheduled for September 6th, while the final will be played on September 9th, with the winner clinching the sole ticket to represent CAF zone at the inaugural CAF Women's Champions League finals in Egypt. Well, it's time for me to put a cap on this end of studio and hand you over to Serfine Achieng, who is talking to Dr. Frank Njenga, the presidential advisor on mental health. And of course, we see a lot of complaints coming from Kenyans who are using the Nakuru-Nairobi highway, stuck there for the last 2 hours. We actually hope that you can get help as quickly as possible so you get home and get back to your works tomorrow, and we wish you all the best. But for now, I leave you in the safe hands of Serfine Achieng. My name is John Jacob Kioria. Have yourself a fantastic night.
Thank you so much for keeping us company. Of course, the conversation begins right now. Join us as we assess the state of mental health in our country. Did you know that nearly 3,000 people commit suicide daily? Yes, this is according to estimates by the World Health Organization. The global health body also says that out of every one person who commits a suicide or dies as a result of suicide, 20 or more of them are tempted to take their own lives. Suicide is a global problem. It is a big problem even here in our country, Kenya, a country that has recorded a surge in cases of depression. We've seen cases of homicide going up, intimate partner violence getting tragic. We have to talk. We have to know what is the root cause of what we are witnessing in our society. And that is why we are here at the Chiromo Hospital Group to talk to none other than a man who has been doing this for close to 40 years. He knows what it means to heal the minds of people. I'm talking about none other than Dr. Frank Njenga. Karibu sana.
Asante sana. Thank you very much. Well, thanks for asking me to come.
All right. Dr. Frank Njenga is the chair of the National Mental Health Task Force that was established by the Ministry of Health in the year 2019. So we really want to understand what progress we have made as a country since the establishment of this particular task force. Let's begin there.
All right.
First of all, what is the mandate of your task force?
Okay. I think to understand this whole concept well, one needs to go back to 1st of June 2019, when in Narok the president actually declared that mental health was becoming a very serious matter for consideration in this country. And on that day, Madaraka Day at Narok, he actually directed government in general to look into the matter. That same year, 2019, Cabinet met and decided to form a task force, which I was asked to chair. We looked into the state of mental health, and on the 7th of July 2020, in the middle of Corona, we submitted the report to government, and we are now in the process of implementing the recommendations of that task force. So it's been a progress. It's not that government woke up one day
and decided to do it.
No, it's a process that started up with the declaration that depression in particular, suicide and intimate partner violence were matters that required the focus and attention of all of us as a country. So what did we find? Well, exactly as had been predicted, we found a number of things. First, that there was a very heavy burden placed on us Kenyans by mental disorders. That's the first thing. The second thing that we found was that we had placed very little by way of resources to deal with this humongous burden presented to us by mental disorders. And thirdly, we found that this very unfortunate situation was being propagated by stigma and discrimination. So in a nutshell, government recognized there was a problem, and government decided to do something about it.
Yeah. Thank you for taking us back to that passionate speech by the head of state, which sort of like brought this whole issue to the limelight for us to really address it as a country. But I'd like to also marry this with the COVID-19 pandemic. Experts are saying this pandemic has actually increased or even made the situation worse. As an expert in this field, what do you say about the impact of COVID?
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt that COVID has made a very, very bad and difficult situation worse. On the 15th of May 2020, almost about a month or two after COVID-19 was declared a pandemic by the World Health Organization, the World Health Organization issued very shortly after that a report that many of us ignored, which told us that behind this virus will come a surge in mental disorders of a nature and proportion of which we have not seen before. Guess what? The World Health Organization was absolutely right. We are now in the middle, not just of the COVID-19 pandemic, but in the middle of one of the biggest mental health crises the globe has seen in all time. So yes, the crisis actually is, number one, arising from the virus itself. Number two, from the measures that we take to try and protect ourselves from the virus, the isolation, the not visiting your mother and grandfather, the not going to church. Yes, absolutely. I mean, the way we cope with stressful situations is to talk to our mothers.
Yeah, to socialize, to spend time together.
We're told when somebody you love dies, don't touch them, don't go near to them. And when you're really distressed, you're told don't hug those you love, because, I mean, it's the opposite of everything I have taught in the life of being a psychiatrist. So the things that keep you safe are the ones that make you fall ill mentally. That's where we are.
Yeah, thank you for helping us understand how COVID-19 connects to the surge in the number of mental health issues. Aside from COVID, what would you say, is there anything else you'd say justifies the rising trend in the mental health issues we're witnessing?
Okay, so COVID is the first one, but very closely associated with COVID is the social and financial consequences of it. The number of people who have no jobs now, the people for whom lives and livelihoods have become a big mess. I mean, anybody who works in the hospitality industry, for example, has suffered a kind of stress, joblessness and reduced incomes all over the world. So that's the first thing that has really caused us a serious problem. And then, of course, there's the global recession. But also, and this is an important point in our case, maybe not globally, we as Kenyans have become very aware of ourselves and are reporting via the media more often and more frequently. You see, prior to June of last year, women in particular suffered only in silence. Families did not speak out about intimate partner abuse. People in the community were too ashamed or shy to speak about mental health issues. But I think in the last 5 years, we have come out of our cocoon and can now address mental health, formally, without fear or shame.
We've been in this for decades.
Yes, indeed. Decade, yes.
And we commend what you do, Dr. If you compare the trends in the yesteryears and what is happening right now, there are concerns about the generation that we are raising right now with regards to the way they manage stress, their stress management mechanisms. What would you say? Is it the generation or these issues are just actually rising?
Okay, first of all, 41 years ago when I graduated and now can be compared very easily with day and night. They are as similar as day and night. They are completely, the 40 years that we've been around have seen a complete and total transformation of the way that we view and treat mental health issues. I'll restrict myself to only one thing, which is the supposition that the youth have serious mental health issues. Wrong. Completely wrong. Actually, from where I sit, the future of mental health in our country rests with our youth. And I'll tell you why our youth are our reason to hope. Yes, they have very many issues. Yes, they have many challenges. Yes, the problem of drug and substance abuse is big amongst them. Yes, unemployment is very high amongst them. But unlike their parents, they are free to talk about it. They have no shame, they have no stigma, they have no inhibition. And the number of youth that are going to government institutions or to their doctors or to their counselors or to their spiritual providers or to their aunties and uncles and saying, "Auntie, I can't sleep, I am depressed, get me a mental health specialist," is bigger than you know. So,
sorry to cut you short, but it's not about them being a softer generation.
They are not softer.
They can't deal with stress.
They are ahead of their parents. Their parents go whispering. The youth, so what if I have depression? So what if I have an anxiety state? I mean, it's up to you to get me better. They Google and they see that normal people are the ones who get depression and anxiety and mental disorders in general. They have no stigma and they don't discriminate, which is also very important, against mental health. So contrary to what many people think, I actually see an incredible silver lining resting on the shoulders of our youth.
What did you then say about the stigma that is there? There was a time when if you mentioned mental health, there is that negative connotation that comes with it. I don't know what you'd say around how that culture is changing.
Two things have conspired for our benefit. First, the number of old people is small compared to the young people. So the carriers of this bug of stigma and discrimination relative to the entire population is relatively small. So the number of grandmothers who talk about you being bewitched or suffering mental illness because your uncle, who on the day they got married did not give the goat that was supposed to have, that kind of stuff. The youth don't even understand that. And when I graduated, and that's why I say it's day and night, the difference, people of this country understood mental disorders as arising from bewitching, from goats that were not slaughtered, I don't know, looking up or looking east. Now the youth have the same information as their contemporaries in California or in Munich or in Tanzania. So actually the world is now flat. The information available to our youth is exactly the same as that available in the rest of the world. And the level of stigma in relation to mental health is very low compared to their parents.
Wow, I like your optimism and just telling us that the more information is out there, it's actually very pivotal in addressing these issues. It's about 2 weeks before globally we can mark the World Suicide Prevention Day. This is a very serious issue. On this, having been in this, what do you think should be the main focus as we look forward to this particular day, having observed the trends in suicide and the gaps in addressing this issue, what should we be focusing on?
Three things. The first one is our terminology. All right? People commit crimes, they commit adultery, they die by suicide. So when a person dies by suicide, it's a description of the fact that that person was so severely distressed and unwell mentally that they died as a consequence of an illness, not either of a moral depravity or a criminal act. So that's the first thing. Terminology. People die by suicide. They don't commit suicide. They commit crimes and they commit adultery and other things. They die by suicide. Terminology. The second one is that we must remove attempted suicide from our statute books. Now, if you are so depressed that you attempt to do away with your life by killing yourself, if you survive, then you go to jail. We need to change the law quickly to make sure that those people who attempt suicide are taken to a medical facility at once and not to jail. So the second one is, for me, is changing legislation which will enable the conversation about and around attempted suicide to the medical fraternity. And the third thing is education. And the first people to train have to be members of the media, the fourth estate, because you are the face of our society. You are the ones who are there first. You are the ones who report on these events about suicide and who did what. And there are very clear guidelines, international guidelines from the World Health Organization on how to report on suicide. And I have very, very good news for you, that in early September, the Ministry of Health and the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Mental Health and Kenya Psychiatric Association have put together a workshop precisely to enable the media report properly in a way that is helpful of society. And if I could say one last thing on the same area of education, the other group that we are targeting are the spiritual providers, the faith-based organizations, whether they are Christian, Hindu, Muslim, and so on. Because unknown to you, most people who die by suicide will have gone to their spiritual provider, an imam, a pastor, in the week before, and told them, Mr. Pastor or Miss Pastor, I am feeling so distressed and distraught. I feel like I should do away with my life. Please pray for me. At that point, the imam or the pastor should say the following: yes, Mr. whatever your name is, I will pray for you. And we will pray that God heals you. And then they must pray. After that, the spiritual provider must say, having prayed to God, I will now make contact for you with a mental health specialist. Because the way to deal with these feelings of depression is to deal with the spiritual one, with God, and secondly, and equally importantly, with your mental health expert. We work together. All right?
Not just a spiritual.
No. God, in his abundant wisdom, created not only the pastor, but also the doctors and the mental health specialists. So our cry to spiritual providers is, don't limit God. God created both, and if he didn't want to have both people, mental health specialists and priests, he would have created only one. But now we have both, and they must work together. I have more good news. More and more are working together in this Kenya.
Wow, that's really something to look forward to, because you're really concerned about how information is passed out there, not just having information, but how it's packaged, how people receive it. I want you to comment a little bit on how you would recommend we go about it. For example, social media right now is a very big thing, and people share photos of somebody who was found hanging on a tree, or just graphic photos of people who've died because of maybe intimate partner violence that has gone tragic. Do you feel this is actually helping in elevating the seriousness of this
Yes,
problem?
it is, very sadly. You see, social media is a double-edged sword. First of all, it's a genie that has come out of the bottle, and you can't put it back. You can't stop social media being what it does, and you can't stop social media doing both good and doing bad. I think all we can say in a forum such as this one is that there will be instances where our brothers and sisters and children and parents will do certain things that are not desirable, like showing very graphic, disturbing images of people who have died by suicide. And sadly, that's part of the enjoyment of the freedoms that we fought so hard to give. But you in the media, I as an elder, we have the responsibility to tell them, you know what, as you exercise your freedom, please remember that your enjoyment of the freedom can be harmful to an innocent son or daughter or mother of somebody else. So I will not go in the line of legislation against the social media, because we fought so hard to get these freedoms. But I think we need to constantly remind ourselves of the responsibilities we have, even as we enjoy our freedoms.
So sharing such graphic images is actually counterproductive.
It's irresponsible. It is irresponsible. And I think some people share irresponsible material intentionally. Others share that sort of material without knowing the extent of the harm that they are doing. So I think our overriding responsibility is to address both groups. Those who want to do harm and those who do harm without intending but out of ignorance.
I started by sharing some estimates from the World Health Organization globally. I want us to bring this closer home, put it in context. What are we working with in terms of the numbers, and are they concerning from where you sit?
Yes. There are recent numbers released by the police that surprised me. And I am ashamed that I was not fully aware of the extent of the problem. The recent report by the police indicated that in the preceding period of 3 months, upwards of 400 people had died of suicide. If you look at a previous reporting period, say 2019, which is the time that I know the numbers well, the number for the whole year was less than 400. I think it was 375. Meaning that there is something that has happened during the reporting period of 3 months that has caused a skyrocketing. Now, before we all panic, there are two possibilities. One, that indeed the rates of suicide have gone up exponentially, and we must do something about it. But there is also the possibility that we as a reporting country have become better at picking out what events we record as suicide. So although both possibilities also exist, that we are getting better at identifying suicide, and also that the rates of suicide have gone up. Exactly. So I think I'll say what I've said before. We have seen the fact, they are disconcerting, and we as government must do something about it. We can't look the other way.
All right. So what is that thing that we ought to do as a country? Is there hope?
I believe there is hope, because by way of example, the government will be releasing during the week of Suicide Prevention Day a policy and a strategy on suicide prevention. Now, this has not happened before. So there will be issued by government, yes, for general distribution to the media, to the whole country, a strategy, the formulation of which is now complete, I'm happy to report. So that will be launched around the 10th of September, yes. So the fact that it's not out there with everybody seeing it is not to indicate that government is sleeping and doing nothing. It's to say government has recognized this is a serious problem, and government is doing what it knows how to do, which is to formulate both policy and strategy to deal with this humongous problem.
We are looking forward to that launch of that particular report. But then I also want us to go beyond policy, beyond reports, and let's work with something that has been in existence for almost 2 years now, your task force. You traverse different parts of the country and you are trying to study. You studied the trends in mental health in the country. What did you find out? What were your recommendations? And years down the line, what is the progress in terms of implementation?
A number of things. First, we said the big burden, and secondly, that we're not investing enough in mental health. So, with regard to say the investment that we have not been doing in mental health, we found, for example, that as of that time, Kenya was spending 15 cents. 15 cents.
15 cents.
It cannot buy you a sweet. Yes?
15 cents.
Yes, 15 cents. Yeah, come and rule hivi for the mental welfare of the people. That shows you the value that we have put as a people of Kenya on mental health. And that's what we found. Yes? So what we are doing now is that we have put in place a formal process that is called an investment case. An investment case is a scenario whereby we will be able to show the country that this 15 cents you are investing is very bad. If you invest an X amount, if you invest, for example, a shilling in the mental health of Kenyans, what kind of return do you expect at the end of 5, 10, 15 or 20 years?
All right. I'm curious about two issues in those recommendations and plans, yeah? One is the issue of cost. Yes, we are limited in terms of the physical structures and the personnel. How does this translate in terms of the impact on the cost of accessing these services in case you're seeking? And also, as you respond to that, also tell me, as you're traversing different parts of the countries, you must have noticed a difference in what County A needs and County B and County C. Is there something being done in terms of, coming up with context-based solutions, not a one-size-fits-all?
Very interesting. We'll start with perhaps the least important one, which is the Mathare Hospital. I've told you we are moving it to up the Ngong Hills, but it's not just that we are moving. We also intend to have 6 satellite units to serve the different parts of the country. So we will decentralize centers of excellence. Part of our big problem is that we don't have enough trained people in mental health. So not only will the training take place in the main hospital, but in these 6 areas of excellence, there will be teaching and training and research going on. So that is the list of them, because people do make criticism. But at the same time, we recognize the importance of the community and the fact that really mental health of a country is best supported from the community upwards.
All right. So, what would you say about the cost aspect? Is there something that is being done to ensure that these services are available and affordable for every person who needs them?
The investment case will help us a lot in telling us what returns do you get by making sure that boys and girls, men and women who are able to access mental health care have by way of return. Now, the tragic finding, if you like, is that 90% of the people who need mental health services in our country do not get those services.
90%.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very, very, very big number. In part is because they themselves don't know they need those services.
Wow, that's even worse.
Exactly. So you don't know you need the service, and even when you know you need that service, when you go asking or looking for it, the clinical officer that you find or the doctor that you find in a queue in Moranga or in wherever, in Kitutu, they don't know that this mugongo that you're complaining about and this kumona kichwa and this tumbo are actually not physical conditions but signs of depression. And that's why I tell you, teaching and training the medical staff at the primary healthcare level, at the level of the community health workers, is what will give us the biggest returns and is what will give the best chances of access to mental health care in our country. Does that mean we don't need psychiatrists? Does that mean we don't need psychologists? Not true. We need them. But we also need to push the conversation about mental health to the level of community health workers.
Good proposal you've issued there. I'd just like to take you to this intimate space, the intimate partner violence. You've seen what is happening in the news lately, and even in this program, what we have been talking about is domestic violence and the tragic turn of events that we have been reporting in our media. What would you say about probably our capability of reading the red flags, of reading the signs of the mental health issues? Are we aware of what we need to look out for? Because sometimes I feel like we tend to realize when it's already too late. One person is already dead, or a whole family has been burnt in a house.
I think part of the many issues around intimate partner abuse is the fact that until recently it's not been talked about openly. And I think now, even in this conversation, and even when His Excellency the President spoke on the 1st of June 2 years ago, we have raised the conversation to where it is now. And I think FIDA did an excellent study on this matter about 10 years ago. Women used to feel ashamed or afraid of speaking out. And part of the reason for that, if I remember the FIDA report, was twofold. One was financial or economic reason, that the violence continued in the home because women in particular were blackmailed. Your children will not go to school, your children will not go get to hospital, a financial challenge. The second one, which in my view perhaps is more serious, is that we as the parents of these young women would tell them Jesus does not like divorce, Jesus does not like, which is true, but Jesus doesn't like dead girls, either, and I think what we are doing, which is right, is that we are encouraging potential survivors of intimate partner abuse to come out with dignity and say, my mother told me, my father told me, my pastor told me that there is a point beyond which relationships can go, and it is perfectly in order for me to ask for help when I feel that my physical space has been violated.
Yeah, I think as we continue having such conversations and as the stigma fades away, more people will come out and actually seek these services. They'll be more self-aware that it gets to a point that I actually need help to address some of these mental health issues. I just want us to look at the solution part of it. What are some of the factors that are considered before probably you recommend a clinical way of addressing it, for lack of a better term?
We live in a society where we don't allow the word continuum to exist. This is a continuum. And we start at the very nearest point where girls and boys who are married recently should be encouraged to talk to each other about, I'm not happy about the way we are getting on in this marriage. We don't talk to each other anymore. We don't plan our lives anymore. I don't feel respected. Just talking to each other. Basic. Exactly. I think we should encourage that. Then at the next level of the same continuum is where a boy or girl should be able to go to to his or her uncle or aunt and say, you know, mom, auntie, I don't feel safe, I don't feel happy, and I don't know what to do. And you will be surprised by the extent to which aunties are custodians of incredible wisdom. You know, they will tell you, no, by the way, this happened to your cousin the other day, and I told your cousin, blah, 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 blah. You know, before you go to the level of formal structures that would then include your church, that would involve now your sheikh, that would involve now the court system, before you involve even mental health experts, there is that continuum to which you must make yourself comfortable and available. By the time you come to us as a psychiatrist, I'm not saying you should pass through all those ones. No, because some situations are very serious. But each and every member of that continuum should have been brought into consideration. That's all I'm saying. It's a continuum. Not everybody has to be taken to big doctors.
And we've come to the end of this conversation, and I just want you, as part of your parting shot, to talk to our society. You're addressing right now a society that sends a message of hopelessness. You know, COVID-19 has happened. People have lost their jobs. We are seeing the surge in number of domestic violence cases. Today, you'd say hi to someone and they'll tell you, napumua, bora uhai, earth is hard. I'm sure you've heard these kind of phrases which have been normalized. We joke about them, but if you think about them deeply, it gives you a sense of a society that has sort of, there's a lot happening, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of hopelessness. What would be your words of hope and encouragement to this society today? Just putting it in the context of the mental issues that we are dealing with.
This crisis brought to us by COVID-19 has been very serious and has been like a huge cloud having all over us. This, I have to say though, it has a silver lining with respect to mental health. Let me explain. Today, this conversation that we are having is, in my view, partly possible because the crisis before us has been so big that mental health issues are now properly and squarely on the table. His Excellency the President, upon looking at the Mental Health Task Force report, among other things, appointed his presidential advisor on mental health, which is myself. And my mandate includes talking to you and telling you that this government is committed completely to ensuring that mental health remains central to all that we as Kenyans do. Our mental health is secure in future.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frank Njenga, for your time and for your words of wisdom and useful insights on how we are doing as a country in terms of addressing mental health issues. We really appreciate your time. That's it for us. Thank you so much for watching. This is KBC Channel 1. My name is Serfine Achieng Ouma.